like, what was that guy's point? Why would he do? Why did he decide he had to do a podcast on a like 25-year-old murder? He wasn't going to come busting in their door in the last episode with the police. Aha!
I hate all of them, but one of the formats that I hate is where you have two people, the one who clearly has done the research and stuff, and the other one's going, really? No. What?
Yeah,
Oh, and then why didn't she ever? Did anybody ever ask why she didn't? Well, here's the thing. When they interviewed her the first time, she said it was Tuesday afternoon. The second time she said it was Tuesday, but she wasn't sure if it was 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. What? If you don't have anything to hide, how would you get confused about the time? I think I just did a true crime podcast.
I think we should have been recording.
See, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about a boogie woogie, and I'm going to play one.
Look, man, we're better off, Dad, with Paul and Steve. And man, we're just trying to figure out how to do the right thing when things get hard. And I need a new podcast to listen to. I've got this one, but it only comes out once a week. I wish this one came out every day. But I got rid of one. I don't know if you saw my Facebook post.
Yeah, I did, but the audience probably didn't.
It's called We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle. And I didn't know who she was. I guess she's an actress. And she has a podcast, which I had been enjoying.
Yeah, you sent me one.
It's more for wine moms than me. It's for, like, if you do yoga and you have Live, Laugh, Love hanging on the wall somewhere in your kitchen.
And at least one personal trainer.
It's probably more for you, but I got some things out of it. There's some good stuff. They talk about mental health and different things. But I was willing to unfollow a podcast I love because they made that comment. Y'all wasn't raised right. Right? And they were talking about something sort of specific. It was about like mindfulness and stuff, and people that, like, sometimes, people will do crazy stuff and you could tell it's because, they're just lost in their thoughts and they're too worried about judgment and too worried about what will people think of me and all that stuff. And they go, yeah, y'all weren't raised right. I stopped it and unfollowed immediately. Because I'm like, and they have kids. Like Glennon Doyle and her wife have kids, I think. I'll have to look into that. Maybe they don't. Maybe that explains it. I believe anybody with kids who's a decent parent will not tell somebody else that their kids weren't raised right. Or they will not tell somebody they weren't raised right. Because once you have kids, you realize you do your best. We are all doing our best. We're all just trying to do the right thing when things get hard. And sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we do everything perfect and kids get to make their own decisions. But if your go-to thing, like, oh, you can't pay your student debt, I guess you weren't raised right. I will punch you. I will not. I do not advocate violence in that way. But
I will unfollow you square in the face.
I will unfollow you square in the face. But anyway, this is Better Off Dad, like I said, but that little story there has nothing to do with the topic of the day. We're still on school. If you caught last week,
we could do a season on school.
We could do a whole season on school. But if you caught last week, you heard how Paul and I sort of approach grades and academics and school in general and that kind of thing. But mainly we were kind of on the academic side of school. Part 2 today, more on some of the non-academic stuff that goes on. Some of the various pipelines, and I'm not talking about crack pipes, which those are there too.
Yeah.
but some of the non-academic stuff. What was your story about the school to military pipeline?
Well, it was funny because Amy's daughter is in this is her senior year of college, and last year she was having a conversation with some of her friends that they're the little group that she runs around with, and they were talking about how military recruiters came to their high school, and the one of the kids, he's like, "What are you talking about?" And they're all looking at him like, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, they come, the recruiters come to the high school like and try to recruit seniors. And he's like, "No, they don't. They don't do that." And then they got to talking a little more, and they realized, well, first of all, this kid's name is Grant. Okay, not that, so it might give you a little bit of a clue. And basically, he went to a what we will call an affluent high school. It was a public school, but it was in an affluent neighborhood. And this is the kind of guy who the kid, and I'm not putting any shade on the kid, but he's got like, um, she told her mom they were gonna go skiing because her friend had a cabin, and then she sent pictures of the cabin. It's a chalet.
Yeah,
So
it's funny what
the
some people will call a cabin. When I hear cabin, I'm thinking like like
Evil Dead.
Abraham Lincoln, like logs.
Yes. But so apparently he had no idea. This kid had no idea that this is what happens to poor kids, and it's just an interesting thing that, wait a minute, not that it's a surprise because it's always been the poor kid that goes to war.
The poor experience is different. I don't want to get into the poor experience, but our poor experience growing up was different than, say, a kid that grew up on the east side of Indianapolis
Yeah.
or downtown LaPorte or
Yeah.
Michigan City, right?
Mhm.
Like we knew some poor kids that grew up in Michigan City. Their experience was way different than our experience growing up out
Mhm.
there. So that's the kind of the picture I'm trying to get in my head is what is LaPorte High School? It's probably a mix, right? It's got city kids and country kids.
Only because it's the only one around. So yeah, it's the we only have the one high school in this area, and it's primarily, yeah, it's shipped in, walk-in city kids like my kids, and then bust in country kids.
Yeah. As opposed to this one in Minnesota, I'm imagining suburban, like I'm trying to compare it to Indianapolis. So
Mhm.
my son goes to a high school that I would consider a city high school,
Mhm.
but very diverse socioeconomically, like a lot of poor city kids, right?
Mhm.
Some rich city kids, but very diverse.
Mhm.
The military comes there to recruit for sure.
Yes.
What I would like to find out now is like Carmel High School, which is like 5,000 mostly rich kids, which is just like 15 miles away, 10 miles away.
Mhm.
I know some people whose kids went there. I have to ask them if the military comes there.
Yeah, find out because that would be
Yeah.
interesting.
Be-
Is it one of those schools where like you don't pick up your kid, someone picks up your kid for you?
Probably. It's either a bus or they walk or the nanny picks them up, right?
Yes, the nanny.
But yeah, to your point. So now that we got that established, we got those key details established that like we're talking about affluent suburbs versus we're not talking private school because there
Right.
is a law, at least in Indiana, and I'm not sure if
Mhm.
this is a federal law, it might be, but if you accept funds, you have to let the military, if the military requests to come in and recruit, you have to let them. Like this isn't the school's decision. If they accept certain funds
Yeah.
and the military requests it,
Yeah.
they have to come in. Now, what may be going on here, it'd be interesting to find out. Somebody get on this. Hey, research assistant, Frankie. And he just left the room. I think he's going to go wipe his butt on the carpet. But if we had a
We should-
research assistant,
We should point out Frankie's a dog.
it'd be interesting to find out. And I don't know, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I don't want to shit
Mhm.
all over your point,
Oh,
which I think I know what your point is, but I don't want to shit on it. But I do want to say it would be interesting to, no, I think all the schools accept. You know what? I'm actually negating my own point. Here's the point I was going to make, and I can refute it immediately. I was going to say maybe the affluent schools don't accept the funds that require you to have the military come in. But if recent experience is any indication, rich folk take as much money as the government will offer.
Yeah.
So they aren't refusing money from the government. I guarantee that. Rich folk love free money from the government. So that takes that point away. Like, so the other point is it's hard to recruit rich kids.
That was going to be my point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Why would you go in to a school to recruit trust fund kids and kids who are, going to take up the law firm or the family business or whatever it is they do? You're not going to get those kids to do it because it's never not since like the Spanish American War did rich kids ever go to war.
Well, when you had the draft, they were
Mhm.
able to dodge the draft, but yeah, it was before modern, probably before World War One.
Mhm.
Because that became the dangerous war.
The danger. Yes, when the machine gun was invented.
Yeah, and the congressman from Northeast Indiana, which covers Fort Wayne and those areas up there, just
Mhm.
east of you. I think it's actually the district just east of you. Your
Yeah.
congressperson was just killed in a car accident, Walorski. I don't know who's serving out her term or whatever, but the one right next to you, his name is Jim Banks. And during the hullabaloo over student loan forgiveness,
Mhm.
he actually said that quiet part out loud that you just mentioned.
Yes.
Which was, he said, forgiving student loans takes away from the military one of their biggest recruiting tools.
Mhm.
So if you're forgiving, like if you don't allow indentured servitude,
Mhm.
how are we ever going to recruit poor kids?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was
it's
going to
interesting.
bring that up, but you beat me to it.
My kid had a story. He comes home, he's like, yeah, these two guys from the Navy came trying to tell us why we should want to join the Navy, and they just stood there making fun of each other the whole time.
Like a rap battle between the Navy
Yeah,
and the.
exactly. But there is that power dynamic too. I mean, it's not just poor kids that are like, oh, I don't have any prospects, but you got somebody walking in there with a nice set of clothes, maybe
Mhm.
some decorations on their clothes,
Mhm.
nice haircut, and these guys are trained. They are trained in how to give the pitch. It's
Yep.
basically a script, right?
Yeah.
And part of the script is a power dynamic that says, I'm successful. Look at me. I got nice
Mhm.
clothes, shiny shoes. I carry myself well. I have a nice haircut. I make good money. And you, what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah.
Who are
Yeah.
you? You're nobody. And so that's what creates the pipeline, right?
Yes.
I don't want to make any other points before you get a chance to make them. So
Oh no, you're good. Keep
I know
going.
I'm good. I know I'm good, but are you done?
I need that on a coffee cup. I know I'm good, but are you done?
Yeah, it's funny. Speaking of power dynamics, this morning as I was dropping my son off, we were running a little late. So I dropped him off at the sidewalk so he could, instead of pulling into the parking lot, so he can just walk in. And he's like, I'm really not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, I just walk into the door that I go into when you drop me off. I'm not sure if that's right. I'm like, does it work? He's like, yeah, it works. I was like, then it's probably right.
Yeah, do it. Do
I
it
said,
till
why?
somebody says it's wrong.
Well, and that was the thing. He's like, yeah, there's like 15 like security guards between the sidewalk and the entrance that I go in. I'm like, well, what are they saying? He's like, oh, where are you supposed to be? I was like, what do you say to them? or no, they go, where are you going? And he's like, I always just say, I'm going to school.
That's right.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
These guys, the way it's all, and I know I complained about this last week, but I'm going to complain about it again. Like, they see their job as keep people from doing monkey business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even if you're there for monkey, but what if you're there for monkey business? Like, what are you doing here? I'm here for monkey business. Well,
That's right.
I'm not going to help you with that. You know, what if you might be the head monkey trainer, so you really
That's
are
right.
there for monkey business. They're like, well, I'm not helping with that. No monkey business here. But they're not helpful at all.
No.
They're not there to help.
No. And they get off on it a little too much because it's almost like they're hoping to catch that one kid, with like
Oh yeah.
the backpack full of crack or something.
Yeah, preferably not armed. I
Well,
used to
that would be the
I
dream.
used to think they all had hero fantasies like, "Oh, please, I want somebody to come try to shoot up the school. I want, please, somebody." And then Uvalde happens, and I'm like, "Oh, well,
Mhm.
that wasn't it."
Well, it's the bully thing,
Those
They
those who aren't familiar at Uvalde, the cops and security guards and whoever just stood around for. This is what I heard in the news anyway.
Mhm.
According to the news, they just stood around for a long time while the shooter was in the school shooting up kids. And so that hero complex thing, just my theory about everybody wants to be the hero and the good guy with the gun and all that stuff. I'm like, well, I know it's only a sample size of one. That is a sample of
Yes.
what might really happen, right? But yeah, go on. A bully, like they were the bullies in school. Is that
Yeah,
your
they were the
thought?
bullies in this. And anytime you challenge the bulliness, like you said, I think you said it last week about, or 2 weeks ago, it was about like, the one thing I know about bullies is they're not stupid, like
Yeah,
how you grew up,
yeah.
and as soon as you challenge that, their script gets bumped and then they get pissed off.
There was a good example of that. So my son is goth. For those that didn't know, for those who don't know, the goth culture is the culture that sacked Rome in the 400s
Yes.
AD. But they're also a subculture of punk sort of goth, and he wears like sometimes he wears these spikes around his neck, like he's
Oh
got this
yeah.
neck collar
Yeah.
thing with spikes on it.
Yeah. Arlo would do
And
that too.
he wore that to school one day, and one of the security guards is like, where are you supposed to be? Where you going? Wait, you can't be wearing that. And he's like, why not? The guy's like, well, because you might because they're sharp. Okay, so
So don't use a
you, you
pencil either.
you might stab somebody with it. I'm not gonna stab anybody with them. It's not a weapon. It's an accessory.
Yeah. Do you know
Well,
how much this cost?
t- but but you might trip and hurt somebody. He's just like,
Yeah.
whatever. And the guy's like, well, we got to go to the office. Okay, let's go to the office. So they walk to the office. The principal looks over and goes, oh, hey, Eli, how you doing? And the security guard's demeanor immediately changed,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's your point about the bully, right? It's like Eddie Haskell or somebody, right? It's
Hmm.
like you immediately change when you're around a higher up authority figure. So
Yep.
this guy thought he was going to win some points with the principal by bringing in a troublemaker, right?
Yep.
Well, it turns out the principal knows my son, likes him,
Hmm.
and the security guard just immediately changed, like, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I was just telling him about the we're getting along pretty well. He's not causing any trouble or anything. He's being pretty cool about everything, and I just was letting him know he can't wear that." And my son's like, "I don't think I was being all that cool. I was being pretty." And he was like, "I was being pretty resistant. I was like basically saying I'm not taking it off." He's like, no, 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 no. You were being cool about it. You were being cool about it. And he just keeps saying, I really wasn't. I really wasn't being that cool. I didn't come here. I didn't. And he's like, and he came here willingly. Like I didn't have to make him come. He's like, I really didn't want to. I didn't know I had a choice. And the principal's just going, no, he's fine. He's a good kid. Yeah, well, you can't really wear that, so you have to take it off. Why do I have to take it off? Well, just take it off. And like eventually he took it off. But I was
Yeah.
like, that's my boy standing up to authority.
That's
Like I
right.
didn't do when I was in high school.
Well, we raise our kids to be better versions of ourselves. You know,
Mhm. Yep.
that's like
Yep.
with Max. I've been trying to, because he's very shy, so I've been trying to teach him the fake it till you make it approach to life.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where if you're somewhere in the school where you're not, say you're lost, because this is his first year and it's a big school, to go from the small middle school to the gigantic high school. It's a much bigger school, And if you wander down the wrong hallway, don't act like you wander down the wrong hallway. Just keep walking, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just act like you know it. Act like you meant to do that.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's for sure. I do feel, and the other story, and this isn't school, but this is that security guard mentality. If any security guards are listening, feel free to call in, give us your side of the story. We enjoy hearing people when they're wrong. So they're at the my wife and Eli were at this horse event in Kentucky at the Kentucky State Fairgrounds in Louisville, Kentucky. And, the fair is going on, but also there are events going on, like happens at fairs. And they were in this sort of expo area and they had to go to the bathroom, and they went to the bathroom, but they had to leave the expo area to go to the bathroom. They're coming, and it was outside, somehow convoluted, but they kind of had to go outside. They're coming back in, and this security guard's there. He's like, whoa, wait, well, hold on. Where are you going? I swear to God, in security guard school, they teach them two things: where are you supposed to be and where are you going? Like, where are you going? I was like, well, we're going back to the expo area. Well, I need to see your credentials. And they're like, credentials? What?
What does that even mean?
What does that even mean? Credentials? I have my learner's permit. It's like, yeah, I have my license. And what is that? With that credential? No, I need credentials. Like, we don't know what you're talking about. And
he
like,
probably didn't.
A guy comes walking by, and the security guard kind of waves at him. The guy goes in, right? And they're like, okay, what credential did that guy have that we don't have?
Yeah.
He's like, well, he had a wristband. We're like, a wristband? Where do you get wristbands? I don't know. Like, what kind of wristband? I don't know.
Where are you wandering from the hospital? It's like, I got a wristband.
We just came from in there, and now we're just trying to go back in. Well, you can't go in here. You have to walk down there to that end of the building and then turn into, there's a door down there that you have to go in.
The moose out front should have told you.
They're like, it's starting to rain. You're going to make us go down there to that door when this is where we're going. We're just going right there. And he's like, yes. And my wife is like, well, but it's raining. We can't just be out here in the rain. And he's like, well, I have to be out here in the rain. I'm sure you'll be okay.
Well,
and they're like, you're getting paid to be out here in the rain. It's your job. We're paying to be in the rain. And finally, they just got fed up and started walking. And the guy, so they started walking in, and the guy just started walking with them and trying to get in front of him. He jumps in front of my wife and he's like, you cannot go in here. And she's like, you will get out of my face. He's like, I'm going to call my superiors. And she's like, please call somebody that knows what's going on. And like, he's on his little walkie-talkie thing or whatever. They just took off. They just started walking.
Because they didn't have
followed
anything.
them. They turned into some horse stall areas and wound their way through.
Yeah. He's
the whole time Eli's texting me like, we have a security guard chasing us. Oh, no, he said cop. There's a cop chasing us, and we just ducked into some horse stables.
He probably coaches like his son's little league or something. He's one of those kind of.
So what kind of world would this be if, and let's take it back to schools. Let's say oh, by the way, I got to finish that. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Horrible podcast flow here. It's like we're driving. It's like, sorry, wait, I got to finish that other story. Fast forward about an hour or hour and a half. They're watching the horse show, and some knuckleheads had guns on the midway of the fair and start trying to shoot up the place, right? So nobody knows what's going on. The horse show doesn't even stop because they don't know what's going on down there. People start running in from the outside, like crowds start running in. The horses start freaking out. The judges have no idea what's going on. The announcer, the little music that they play, it sounds like little carnival music while the horses are doing their thing. It's like do 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 do. It was like a freaking Stanley Kubrick film. They're just the crowds are running in, the horses are going crazy, the judges are there with their little clipboards, and the music's going do 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 do. Where were the security guards?
Out left. They're gone because
looking
security.
for wristbands. They're probably standing at the door. Excuse me, you have to have a wristband to come in here.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you have to, and the people are just running in without wristbands.
Security has one job, so that when it comes down to an establishment dealing with insurance cases in a case like this, they can say, well, we had security.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
they could say, not only did we have security, but they weren't our employees.
Yes.
We have a contract with the security company. So if they hired somebody who's incompetent, that wasn't our fault. We hired a security company.
Yeah, because it's never the people that, like, you're not gonna get like, I don't know, Joe's Circus. They're not gonna walk around with Joe's Circus security on their shirt. It's gonna be like Securitas or some security
Yeah.
company.
So now back to schools. Because that's not, I don't believe that. I think with the schools, I think they're school system employees, these security guys. And there's like a lot of schools have their own police department. As ludicrous as that sounds, I know. Those of you just tuning in, I know that sounds weird. A school system having its own police department with guns and badges and arresting authority and the whole works, right? And I can hear what you're saying. I can hear y'all out there in podcast land. We need a name for our listeners. Better Off Nation.
The better off. I don't know. Anytime you got nation, that's a little, no, I don't want to go that route. That's a little
That's a little
national.
alt-righty, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
White nationalist sounding.
Yes. No, I'll pass on that.
All right, we'll come up with something. Anyway, well, yeah, but you got to keep order and discipline and all that stuff, right? That's not what cops do. I don't know the last time we got cops maybe that listen, they can refute what I'm about to say. I think cops are not there to maintain order and discipline. I think cops are there to arrest and punish, maybe mitigate a situation to keep it from getting out of hand. Maybe break up fights if they break out, stuff like that. But as far as maintaining order and discipline, that's more of a culture that the school builds. Like any cop will tell you. I've never been a cop, never had a cop tell me this. But I would imagine cops would say there will never be enough cops in the world to maintain order and discipline. Because there can't be a cop there every second of every day, everywhere. Right. So you have to have a culture of order and discipline. If you want order and discipline, the cops are there as one piece of the puzzle. And I would argue in a school situation, they shouldn't be a key piece of the puzzle. What kind of world would this be if those security guards, as Eli's walking up to his school, right? I used to have a lot of discipline about not using my kid's name in the show. That's
yeah. You used to be my kid and my wife.
Yeah,
my kid and my wife, and now you're like, screw it.
Yeah, I guess. Because nobody listens. That's why.
They're safe for now.
And then this thing blows up, and
and that one Kentucky security guard happens to be listening, and he's all mad now.
All right, I've said this 3 times. I'm going to say it again. Imagine a world where those so-called security guards, right? Call them something else, call them whatever you want. But what if their job, instead of catching somebody with a bag of crack or breaking up a fight or maintaining order and discipline, what if their job was to be helpful? What if, as somebody's walking up and they're like walking toward school, instead of going, where do you think you're going? Well, I'm going to school. Well, you're going in the wrong door. What if instead of that attitude, what if it was good morning? Nice to see you, oh, by the way, when you're walking, you go in the door down there. Just because we're trying to do that just to keep order. It's for your safety. Because there's a lot of cars over there, a lot of traffic. So the walkers we're having go in that door down there. And what if that was their job? What if in the hallways, instead of being like, where are you supposed to be? What if it was like, hey, what's going on? You guys got class or something, or what's happening? Can I help you with something? And it's like, if they are cutting class and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it could be like, I mean, you guys know you're supposed to be in class. Why don't you go on, get in class? What if that was their attitude instead? What kind of culture could you build with that?
Not this one. I think part of the reason, the main reason why they do that, and I could be wrong, but I think the main reason why they do that is because if well, one, you're dealing with kids. So if you can set a kid off almost instantly, then you look good for getting a kid who a trouble kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the kid will you say something like that to the kid goes off on you. You've got him for being disrespectful or some shit. You can march him into the principal's office and not have a situation like with what happened with Eli.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's part of it. And that's the security guards. Now, there are some teachers at affluent schools, by the way, there's some
Mhm.
teachers that have some sort of bully complex as well. And it may come from their own insecurities. I don't know where it comes from. There's this one teacher in particular where my daughter went to school
Mhm.
that like anytime, and this happened, poor kid, it happened fairly frequently because I was always encouraging her to do stuff that was kind of out of the ordinary. She ran for class something, secretary or something,
Mhm.
in like sixth or seventh grade.
Mhm.
And she said, "Hey, I had this idea to hand out candy and tell people to vote for me." And I was like, "Oh, good idea. You should do that. Has anybody done that before?" She's like, "No, nobody's tried that." And I was like, "Sounds great to me. People love candy, and they you might get some votes that way." So she gets a couple bags of candy, gets set up in the hallway, and is like handing out, her little flyers and candy. One of the teachers comes up and says, "You can't be doing that," and took her candy.
Now he's sitting in the classroom eating the
Yeah.
candy.
And it's the same teacher that um, she's had run-ins with before. Now,
Mhm.
you will not meet a more compliant, uh, sort of shy, quiet, kind
Okay,
kid.
so I'm seeing two kids here.
Yeah,
I'm seeing one of them who kind of
compliance
reminds
means
me of
nothing.
somebody I used to know in high school.
Right, right. And one is the opposite.
Yes.
So while I've encouraged my daughter to be more outgoing and more like she hates getting in trouble, like who likes
Mm,
getting in trouble, right? But so I don't
troublemakers,
know if it's
that's who.
backfiring because the more I try to get her to do stuff, then some a-hole teacher comes along and then she's like, "Oh, well, when you try to do new things, you try to be innovative, you try to be creative, you get yelled
Mhm.
at by a teacher." So nobody listens to this show, right? Like 6 people maybe. But I swear to God, I know what I'm saying will irk some people. Maybe
Mhm.
not anybody who's listening, but I know there are people who would go, "Well," and here's what it would sound like. "Well, have you ever been a teacher? Have you ever tried it? Why don't you see what it's like to have 115 middle schoolers wandering the hallways? You get a little like you have to be a little firm with them. If you can't just be all unicorns and rainbows with these kids because they will get away with anything they can try. And you know what? Come on the show and give me that argument and change my mind,
Yeah.
please." Because as much as I scream and yell about this stuff, I've yet to have anybody present a valid, like coherent argument in return.
Yeah, and there's a difference between being stern and being an asshole.
Yeah,
Flat out. I like, do you
yeah.
hate kids? Do you just hate kids? If you do, why are you doing this?
Why are you
Now,
doing this? Yeah,
again, like you said, anybody who wants to give us the other side, more
100%,
power,
man.
absolutely.
100%. Because it's my belief that, and I did this. I actually coached soccer now for little kids. Now I know it's not the same. I'm not there
Mhm.
all day, every day, not getting paid
Mhm.
enough. Now, here's the thing about teachers. They don't get paid enough. I was talking to a teacher in the family recently, and we were
Mhm.
talking about education and stuff. And I said, you guys don't get paid enough.
Mhm.
I said, I don't know anything about anything, right? Or in the words of Ruth, I don't know. I
Shit
forget, are
about
we
fuck.
explicit? I don't know shit about fuck.
I can always cut
Um,
it out.
but I said, what I do know is you guys don't get paid enough. I know that much.
Yeah.
And her answer was like the most like liberal, not quite leftist, but very nice liberal, not bad liberal. it
Yeah.
was it was you know what? I, Getting paid more would be fine. Yeah, I'll take the money. But she's like, I'm
Mhm.
not, it doesn't matter to me. I make enough. I wish the
Mhm.
schools were better funded. I wish we could get
Yeah.
better equipment, better stuff, better supplies. And I know this person, I know it wasn't put on, right? It was serious.
Mhm.
I was like, but still, I'd still like to pay you more. But anyway, so God bless the teachers. They're all heroes. Um, but when I coached the soccer team,
Mhm.
my approach was multi-layered. The first time a kid was not where he was supposed to be, and like where I was telling him to be and all that, I assumed it's because they didn't understand. And so I would explain it to them.
Yeah.
The next time they would do it, I'd be like, is there a way I can explain this to you? Do you remember when I told you that? And if they said no, then I'd be like, well, let me explain it to you again. If they said, yeah, I do remember, then I'd be like, is there a better way to explain it that keeps you from is there a reason for this, right? If it was clear to me that they were just screwing around like kids will do sometimes, doesn't make them a bad kid, it's just they're screwing around, I'd take them out. I'd be like, why don't you go stand over there? The rest of us are going to work on this thing, and you stand over there for a minute, right? Took them out of the fun, right? And then like that kid was like, oh crap. And when he came back, he didn't do the stupid thing again, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. But I didn't immediately, and this is this one example, same teacher that took her candy. Like, you're not supposed to wear your winter coat around inside. You're supposed to take your coat off after you come back in from recess, put it in your locker, and then go on with your day. Well, this teacher, like, if you walked into the door and you didn't have your coat off yet, she would yell at you. Like, you're supposed to have your coat off. You know better than that. You know, kind of like you've done something wrong. Yeah. When in reality, it's just like, I just had a good time out at recess with my friends running around. It's cold outside. I come in and I'm 15 feet inside the door and I haven't taken my coat off yet.
Yeah.
That's just somebody that wants to yell at somebody, right?
Yeah, because if it was one kid through the door at a time taking their coat off, like it'd be 45 minutes before you could start class.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd yell about that.
Yeah. How about you stand there and just go, okay, everybody, remember to take your coats off, hang them up. Hope you had fun at recess. That's if you like kids. If you don't like kids, you should be in another line of work.
Absolutely. There. You know what we should do? We should get Jim on the show.
I think he would be fantastic because I think he would refute a lot, some of what I'm saying, because the man's in the trenches, right?
Oh, he's in the worst trenches.
He's in like, the trenches.
There's Agent Orange everywhere.
And I'm sure he would be like, dude, that all sounds great. And you sound like me in my first 5 years. He's like 35, 40 years later, though, dude. It like, you got to understand, you know, I'm sure he would. And I would welcome it. You know, I don't mind being schooled. See what I did there?
You know, because we are the type of person who, if we're wrong, you know, we'll apologize. Because
we are that type of person. The person we are is someone who will. I might apologize. I don't know if I'll apologize. That might be a bridge too far.
Well, it's like my dad said. My dad's thing is his if I'm wrong, I'll kiss your ass and I'll give you 10 minutes to draw a crowd. So.
Yes, I've heard that one. I think that's a good way to end it.
Works for me.
If we're wrong, we'll kiss your ass and we'll give you 10 minutes to draw a crowd. And it'll make the highlight reel at the Better Off Dad best of show.
Yes.
But yeah, what do we know? We're just Better Off Dad trying to do the right thing when things are hard. And it shouldn't be this hard. Sorry about that.
Cue the music.